I'll start now. I think everyone's kind of joining in now, which is good. So good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today to talk about the YPO Apprenticeships and Associated Training Framework. Just to mention, everyone is on mute mode. However, if you have any questions or anything, there is a Q&A button at the bottom. So what we'll do at the end of the presentation, we will go through some questions, and then if we don't, we will send a Q&A document out at the end. Is that all right with everyone? Perfect. So, oh, someone raise a hand. Can everyone hear? So, just a bit about the agenda. So we're going to do some welcome and introductions. I have a new member of my team which I'd like to introduce to everybody. We're going to do a COVID-19 update, so what we've seen over the last couple of months and weeks. And we also going to talk about obviously the apprenticeship framework, so the flexible approach to procuring apprenticeship standards, the procurement process and the framework structure, and then how to procure through the framework. On that, I will be including obviously the website that we have created from a YPO point of view, so that'll be really good too. And then we'll just go through some Q&A at the end if there is anything. So just to introduce myself, I'm Charlotte Kennett. I'm the category buyer at YPO. Yeah, my main focus is the Apprenticeship and Associated Training framework. However, I do have other frameworks under my portfolio. Also with me is Sean Cantrell. So, Sean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, my name's Sean Cantrell. I recently joined the team at the start of this year. My official title is a further competition coordinator, but I think procurement assistant would probably be a bit more suitable. So yeah, I'm kind of the first point of contact for anyone who's got any questions. So when you're emailing the apprenticeships inbox, I'll be the person responding to you. So yeah, nice to meet everyone, even if it is virtually.
So, oh, I don't know if this a minute. Here we are. So for the people who are unsure about who YPO are, so YPO are a public buying organisation. We're owned by 13 member authorities and has 68 associate members, and some of those are listed there. Basically what that means is at the end of each year, as we're a non-profit organisation, all our profit goes back into the public purse, including the 13 member authorities and 68 associate members. And this all depends on the spend that goes through, that they spend through YPO. We also have thousands of products at YPO, so if anyone's been to YPO before, we have a big purple building which is our warehouse, and that is full of products from cleaning equipment to stationery, books, pencils, pens, paper, that sort of stuff. And then we have approximately 100 frameworks that we work with the public sector with as well. So I'm just going to pass on to Sean. He's going to do a bit of a COVID update. So what we've found in the last couple of weeks and months throughout COVID-19, the impact that it has made and things like that. So
yeah,
Sean?
Great. Yes, so I think there's a lot of uncertainty and apprehension that apprentices, customers and providers have all felt over the last 4 months during the lockdown. But there's been a lot of positive signs that show that apprentices are still being recruited, and successfully so as well. To start with, there's been adaptations to how apprenticeships are being delivered. So as we are all doing at the moment, working from home, I feel like the general consensus around that has been fairly positive. A reduction in travel times and all those sorts of stuff have shown it to be very beneficial. So there's kind of scope there for to say that home learning can work just as well. One example of that was a university in the Midlands in April quickly reacted to the COVID pandemic and transferred the course online, including the 2-day induction as well. And during that 2-day induction, there was a lot of the feedback was around people's uncertainty in apprehension, like I mentioned previously, kind of the lack of face-to-face communication and all those sorts of things. But as that was kind of a general view, it kind of puts people at ease. You know, everyone's in the same boat here, so you know, it's something that we should, although it's a negative initially, there's a lot of positives to be taken from it. In terms of standard apprenticeship standards that may be a bit trickier to adapt in terms of home learning, changes can be made to the learning environments, such things as cleaning stations, a staggered timetable, so having different apprenticeships coming at different apprentices coming at different times. One-way systems, I'm sure a lot of our offices that we work in are doing that at the moment. Floor tape as well to keep apprentices social distanced. So there's a lot of examples out there of how providers are adapting their delivery of apprenticeships. Also, a lot of you might be aware that last week the Chancellor announced incentives for companies to recruit apprentices. So I think it's from between August and January, any apprentices that are recruited aged between 16 and 24, companies will be given a £2,000 bonus, and apprentices 25 and over, companies will receive a £1,500 bonus. So again, there's a lot of incentives out there to try and increase the amount of apprentices that are being recruited. And there's a lot of examples to prove that as well. Lewisham Borough Council in London, for example, have just set out a goal to try and recruit 100 apprentices over 100 days during this autumn. So there's plenty of examples out there that should put people's minds at ease. I mean, I personally believe that apprenticeships could be a huge part of how we rebuild the economy and get back to a normality. So yeah, a lot of positives out there, a lot of positive examples that should reassure people. As well, from YPO's point of view, during the last 4 months, we've been increasing the amount of credit checks we're doing on providers as well. So we're doing that on a weekly basis now. So yeah, and if anyone's got any questions about YPO's response to the COVID-19, do just drop us an email and we'll answer that the best we can. I think that's about it, Charlotte. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we just wanted to put that in there. Obviously, it's been on everyone's minds over the last couple of months, and COVID's been a hot topic, and we just didn't want to leave it out. We wanted to give you some kind of updates of what we've seen in the market and what we're continually doing, and we will continue to support you as an organisation with apprenticeships. So I'm just going to talk through the framework now and talk what it's all about. This is a question that we get asked quite a lot. So what is a framework? Now, you know, there's different peoples within different areas of, you know, your job title is completely different. You know, I have procurement, but also we have like training and HR and things like that. Now, what is a framework? So we appreciate that there is an apprenticeship framework. However, when we're talking about a framework, it is our procurement framework. So a procurement framework is an agreement put in place with a provider or a range of providers that enables buyers to place orders for services without running a full tendering process. So a tendering process can normally take between 3, 6, 9 months to put something in place. Whereas if you do kind of for example, a direct award through our framework, it can take as little as 24 hours. So yeah, I just wanted to put in there just to remind you that when we're talking about a framework, we are talking about a procurement framework and not an apprenticeship framework. Via this framework, this procurement framework, we only have standards involved. We don't have anything to do with apprenticeship frameworks. It's all just standards. So how do frameworks work? So frameworks can be used by all public sector organisations, and frameworks aim to meet the needs of different public sector organisations. So as you can see from the diagram below, we create a framework and then each different organisation can call off their requirements. So we try and make it fit for purpose for everybody. With this solution, what we wanted to achieve is a solution that covered all standards available now and in the future. So you will all probably be aware that the Institute for Apprenticeships is constantly bringing out new standards, and as soon as they are live, we kind of add them onto our framework within each round, and I'll go through that further on in a couple more slides. We also wanted the opportunity to support new providers within the market, and as you know, this is a very new sector for everybody, especially the apprenticeship levy. So there is probably quite new providers wanting to join into the market, and we wanted the ability to support those. We also have wanted the ability to procure numerous standards in numerous ways, and I'll get onto that in a couple more slides as well. We also wanted the ability to filter via a sub-criteria. So, you know, we wanted someone like yourself to filter by the region that you currently sit in, the provider ability, you know, Ofsted rating and things like that. And then we also wanted you to access both local and national providers. We are quite aware that, you know, like social value aspects and things like that, we wanted to be able to give you local providers as well as the big national providers as well. So we procured the framework through the light touch regime. Now this is the first for YPO to do it through the light touch regime, and basically what this means is it's a very flexible solution that allows you to do something. You know, it can be anything you like as long as it's open and transparent. And fortunately for us, training fitted under the light touch regime. Not all categories can and are under the light touch regime, but training was one of those. So we have created the most flexible solution that we possibly could at the time. So the framework period is was from the 1st of August 2018 to the 31st of July 2020. Now you all might be panicking and thinking, oh, that's only in a couple of weeks, it's ending. But we've actually extended the framework for an additional 12 months. And we actually don't see this market going any further with the solution that we've put in. So it is likely to go to the full extension opportunities, which will be till the July 2022 as well. So how we structured the framework. So as you can imagine, and when you probably look at that, you think it's a huge beast. Well, I can tell you it is. So we split it down into the 11 regions. So, you know, not all providers can deliver in every single region, and you will only want providers that can deliver in your region as well. So we split it into regions. Then within each region, there's a route. Now the route is stipulated by the Institute for Apprenticeships, and these are kind of like, you know, your social care. I'm trying to think of others, agriculture, your care services, your legal and procurement, all those sorts of things, your construction. And then within each route, you've got the standard. Now, what a provider will do is bid for the region and the standard that they want to deliver into. And that's how it all works from a framework structure point of view. And this is a little bit of a working example. So as you can see, we've drilled down into the protected services element. So police constable degree, emergency services, and safety, health and environment technician. And that's just for the Northwest, but alongside that it will keep on growing and growing. So providers can apply to deliver as an apprenticeship provider only, or if they wanted to be an apprenticeship and associated training provider, they can be as well. Or if they wanted to be an apprenticeship, associated training and an EPA provider, there's that option. And lastly, there is obviously organisations out there who are endpoint assessment providers, and they can join as well. Now, what I mean by associated training is, if, for example, you have a standard and you've got 5 apprentices on there, but actually, you know, you wanted the rest of the workforce to have that one module, well, that can be pulled out and as associated training as well. So any associated training that is linked to the delivering of apprenticeships can be added at direct award or further competition stage. Now, just to note that this will be outside the levy pot and not included within your levy funding. So it is from your own money pot available. Trying to click to the next slide. It's not letting me. Oh, here we go. So new standards and providers. So new standards are added every quarter. So as and when they're approved for delivery by the Institute for Apprenticeships, they are added. And then new providers can also bid against current and new standards. So we add standards every quarter and we add providers every quarter as well. And like I mentioned, current and new standards can be bid against for providers and things like that. So we currently have 538 live standards, so this will keep on growing as and when they are approved for delivery. And on average, we add about 30 standards per quarter. Now this is only over the last couple of quarters that we've had. However, what I'd like to mention is, obviously before that, standards were quite new, so we was getting kind of 50 to 100 standards getting added every quarter, but now we're starting to slow down, and now that there's, you know, a range of standards available, we are only starting to get like 30 standards added every quarter. And then we have 216 providers available on the framework, and obviously this will keep on growing throughout the quarters that we add providers onto. So the timescales. So we're currently, we've currently just finished round 9. So what that means is we providers submitted their bids on the 1st of June 2020 at 2 p.m. and that particular round will go live on the 3rd of August. So it does take us quite a while to obviously evaluate all the bids and get that live up and running. And I'll go through what we have to do when you see the website and things. But like I say, we're currently in round 10. It's open for providers to bid, and the next submission deadline is the 1st of September at 2 p.m. and that round will go live on the 2nd of November. So it's really, you know, we work in quarters, and you know, maybe for the next generation we'll try and see if there's anything else that we can do around that. So the specification. So we have an overarching specification that covers the whole of apprenticeships, and then each specific standard has its own specification as well. So that's just the standard overview that we get off the Institute for Apprenticeship website. Obviously they're all very unique and different in their own way, so we wanted to make sure that every standard has its own specification. Quality assessment. So all generic assessment is carried out at framework level, so we check the insurance, we check the health and safety certificates, and like Sean said earlier, the financial checks are carried out by YPO as well as they are the SFA. So the SFA carry out the checks once they've been accepted onto the roll-up. However, we do the checks as well, just to triple check that they're all being done. If you want any financial check information on a particular provider, please let us know. We can give it you, just so you don't have to do it yourself. Likewise, you can do it yourself, but we've got it there as well for you to see. So I did mention earlier about the sub-criteria, and we decided to create a sub-criteria that would help you to make a more efficient decision when looking to carry out like your direct award or further competition with the providers. So these are some of the sub-criteria that you can filter by, and this is available on our website, which I'll get onto shortly. So you can filter by the Ofsted rating, the region that they're in, you know, the minimum intake, the delivery models, those sorts of things you can filter on. If one provider comes up, great, you could direct award to those based on your internal requirements. Or if numerous ones come up, then you can either have a look at their tender response document and pricing information, or you could you know, go out to further competition to those providers who have just met your requirement by ticking each of these as well. So at framework stage, we do ask the providers to provide us with, you know, some in-depth information about them delivering that particular standard. So I know that you know, sometimes providers say, oh, it can be quite intense bidding, but the reason we do that is because it enables you as a contracting authority to direct award to them based on their bid that we received at framework stage. So these are kind of the some of the questions we ask about. So the different delivery models that they do for that standard, the off-the-job training, lesson plans, co-op delivery, tutor knowledge, learner satisfaction, example course material, and obviously the ability to deliver associated training. But we ask this so that if you do want to do a direct award or get to know that provider, you know, they've answered it, so you can make that decision. So yeah, there is 17 questions that they will need to respond to on this. Price assessment. So this is all done in line with the apprenticeship funding banding that is introduced by the Institute for Apprenticeships. Keep going back to them, but you know, they're the main you know, wheel for us. So the highest score is given for pricing below the banding. So if the we can't obviously take providers off or fail providers based on them going above the banding. However, you know, we're not seeing a lot of that. They are going below the banding or on the banding as such. Associated training costs are included within that, and also the EPA costs as well. And we'll go through that in a bit, and where you can download everything. So like I've mentioned, there's two ways to direct to award through the framework. There's a direct award, but there's also the further to do a further competition as well. So a direct award, you'll be able to see the provider's response documentation, the provider overview, any supporting documentation in relation to that, so like the course material and those sorts of things. And then you can you can ask for references off us if necessary. So we can provide all that information to you for you to do a direct award. Likewise, there is a ability to do further competition. So, you know, you can do a further competition if you feel like you've got a lot of competition within that standard, and you don't have a specific kind of requirement and only one provider's come up. So you can do this. Now we've given kind of a massive criteria throughout this. So, you know, cost, it can be between 10% and 70%, and then the quality can be between 30 and 90%. So we've done a massive range on what you could do for your criteria for that. Now I'm just going to go onto the website. This is like my favourite part because it's quite good. So I'm just going to click on here. And what I'll do, I'll send the link out after this meeting today. So when you arrive on the apprenticeship website, you can find all documentation, so framework terms and conditions, call-off terms and conditions, template information, and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, we can send that to you as well. You don't have to just find it on the website. But this is the best functionality on the website. So click here to search and procure apprenticeship standards. Now on here you can search, a particular standard that you wish. So I'm just going to put it in customer service specialist. It comes up. You can view standard. You can download the assessment plan. You can download the standard overview, and also you can view providers. So what you do is kind of like add it to your basket, and if you want multiple standards to be delivered by one provider, just keep on adding the standards and see if there is a provider available on the framework to deliver multiple standards. I'm just going to show you this one for now. So you view providers for this standard, and it will come up with a range of organisations and providers who can deliver that particular standard. You can filter by each of the regions, option Humber, and it will reduce it based on the provider's ability. You can go across: good, Ofsted rating, outstanding, good, requires improvement, inadequate. Some organisations may not have an Ofsted rating, so a lot of colleges don't have Ofsted rating. However, they are still listed on there as organisations. So once you've chosen a provider, let's just take Barnsley for example, you view provider and it will ask you for log-on details. Now you can either register if you don't have an account, and an organisation can have more than one account, so each individual can have one account each, and there's no limitations on that. But I'm just going to put in my details now because I have an account. And just click login. And what you will see is you'll see the Barnsley College account. So you can download their framework response, you can download their framework pricing at this stage. Now the reason we did put the login stage in there is just that providers can't get through to see other providers' bids and pricing information. So you will be verified by one of the team. So we want to make sure it's secure as possible. Once you've decided that actually Barnsley is the provider that you want to direct award to, all you need to do is select Barnsley College on here, and it will put them in the box, your little basket as such, and it'll say click here to carry out a direct award. Now you can do a direct award via the website, or you can do it offline, so you can just email Barnsley College and we have all the details for that as well. But say for example we wanted to do it by the form, your first name, your last name, your organisation, your position, your email address and your phone number. And then timescale, so you might for example want a September start, so September 2020, or if you want it as soon as possible, just put ASAP. And what should happen after this is a provider should contact you and ask about your requirements and get the onboarding process started for you. So requirements in there, so it could be 10 times customer service specialist. You want 10, sorry, I can't even spell today. So you're wanting 10 apprentices to take on the customer service specialist standard. And then the direct awarding awarding price is the price that they've stated online, which you can see as well. So say for example it's £4,000. After that, you can tick whether you would like the provider to contact you by email or phone. So, you know, a lot of people like it to be email because they've got an audit trail, but obviously the phone is completely acceptable. We just want the best option for you. And then you can tick through, you know, the framework terms and conditions. You can click here and it'll show you the terms and conditions, the call-off terms and conditions. And then this actual form becomes your order form. So you don't need to fill in anything else. If you would like to fill in something else, that's absolutely fine. We can get both yourself and the provider to sign the form at the end. Now this little bit at the end, if you have any amendments to the call-off terms and conditions, please state here. So this is kind of like the variation document that you would normally see, but obviously a Word document. So you can type there what call-off terms and conditions you'd like to change. And all you have to do is submit. So once you've submitted, a copy goes to YPO, yourself, and it also goes to the provider that you've awarded to. So in this case, it would go to Barnsley College. So that's it for kind of the direct award. And likewise, you can do exactly the same, but doing a further competition. So for a further competition, all you need to do is click carry out a further competition for more providers. Now, we have put a filter on there of Yorkshire and Humber, and it will come up there. So the filters that you have applied will come up in kind of like your basket, and only the providers that are within the Yorkshire and Humber region will get your further competition. So no other providers will. All you need to do is upload your further competition document alongside your email address and tick the call-off terms and conditions. Obviously, if you have got any variations to the call-off terms and conditions at further competition stage, within the further competition template, there is the variation box, and it will state to the provider that you want variations to the call-off terms and conditions. Once that's submitted, it will issue out to all providers. So the 9 providers as such that deliver in Yorkshire and Humber. So that's it for further competition and direct award and the website. If there is any questions or you do have any queries about the website, myself and Sean do manually put every single provider information document and every single template, and please let us know. We just need to change it at the back end of the system. So yeah, just let us know if you have any error message or anything in relation to that. Now I'm just going to go back to my slide. So like I said, there's different ways in which you can buy through the framework. So you could do a single standard call-off. So if you just wanted customer service specialist and you wanted to watch it, like say Barnsley College, you could do that straight away. If you wanted a multiple standard call-off, that's literally adding multiple standards and one provider having all that work. That's absolutely fine. You could do a cross-region call-off, or you could do a collaborative call-off. And I know some organisations are starting to work more as a collaborative within their local region on building co-ops up, make it more financially viable for provider and probably yourselves. You might get a lower rate based on the number of learners you got going through that particular co-op. And just at the end there, it says length of call-off period. So there is no maximum or minimum that you can do. So I know some organisations have done a call-off for 8 years, and that's absolutely fine. You can do that through this framework. So even if the framework ends on July 2022, you can do a call-off beyond that life of the framework. So the framework terms and conditions. So we have a set of framework terms and conditions which all providers have signed and agreed to. And then we also have the call-off terms and conditions. So obviously these are between yourselves and the provider. These can be amended to meet your requirements. So if, for example, you think that are a bit too generic, or you want something added in there that suits your requirements, you can do that. And obviously insert any additional terms as well. So they are for you to kind of adapt to as well. And then the order form. So like I say, if you do it on the website, that form becomes your order form. However, if you do it offline, you will need to complete the order form offline and get providers to sign it as well as yourselves. So I'm getting quite close. I think I've run through that. So I'm getting to the end of the presentation now. So we will go through some questions as well that have been asked. So just lastly, information that YPO can provide you. So we can provide you with a framework overview, email, can link to all content in relation to the standards. We can provide you with all provider response documents available, the pricing documents, provider information documents, the template documents for further competition and direct award, and also obviously the framework terms and conditions and call-off terms and conditions. Now, a lot of that is online. However, if you email apprenticeships@ypo.co.uk, Sean will receive your email and he will happily help with your request as well. So I think there's a few questions coming in. I can see them popping up, but I'm not too sure. Let me just stop.
I've had one coming on the chat as well, Charlotte.
Okay, fab. Fabulous. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of them. They're quite lengthy. So we have a question. Do you begin the procurement for providers for a new standard before it goes live, so that the framework is accessible for these as soon as it does, or is there usually a delay depending on when in the quarter it goes live? So what we do with providers is, if they wanted to add a new standard, they would have to go through the whole process, and that particular standard won't go live until that particular quarter goes live. So there is a little bit of delay, depending on what standard it is and depending when the quarter starts and finishes as such. I hope that answers your question. Obviously, if I don't go through all questions, I will send out a Q&A document after. So we've had an email about the use of the system. Could we send out a step-by-step guide to support staff of the apprenticeship portal? Absolutely, we can do that. So what they will do, we'll do after this is we'll send out the system step-by-step guide. Sean created that, so we can send that out after this. So you will be able to get, staff will be able to do it step by step. I appreciate that. And then so if a provider is registered on the apprenticeship, is registered on the framework as an apprenticeship or associated training provider, and then are awarded EPA status, do they have to resubmit a tender to YPO for the EPA aspect of their offering? So yes, they would need to submit a new tender. However, for EPA organisations, they only have to fill in 3 questions instead of the 17. So that is always quite beneficial. However, they would have to wait for the quarter to go live for them to be updated as an EPA organisation as well. Sorry, I'm moving in between like chats and everything, so I apologise. So are you saying you can do a direct award even if multiple providers meet your initial filter criteria? Yeah, absolutely. So as long as you can justify why you are awarding to that particular provider, that is absolutely fine. You can direct awards. So you could look at their quality tender response document and say, actually, within this response to the question, they've highlighted a requirement of the contracting authority, or if their pricing information is kind of the lowest, you can always direct award to them based on that. So yeah, you can do a direct award even if multiple providers meet your initial filtering criteria as well. So yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, sorry, I'm conscious of time. Can I clarify that when a supplier applies to the framework that they can immediately register for standards within the application? So so when a supplier applies to be on the framework, they will fill out the standards that they can deliver. So obviously immediately they can do that. However, if they want to add to their offering, they've missed that particular round, then they will need to do it onto the next round. So they won't actually always immediately kind of be able to add standards, because it's a different standard, it's a different requirement. So we ask them to bid in the next round as well. I hope that answers all your questions. Also, I just want to mention, if you do have any problems with any providers, or you have any questions or anything in relation to the YPO framework, but obviously as well, if any problems with providers, please come to us. We can obviously help you with the provider communication. So if there is something that you know, they're not responding to, or the learning's not as good, we can get involved in that and obviously speak to the provider. And obviously with us, you've got an extra kind of barrier to be able to, we can go at like full force instead of, you know, you just having to go through your legal or whatever it may be. We can also be there because we are the framework provider, and we are monitoring providers, you know, services as well. So if you've got anything like that, please let me know. I'm just going to check if there's anything else. Like I said, we will be sending out the slides at the end of this document. We will send out the step-by-step guide on the portal. And then if there's anything you need to know on the back of that, please let us know. And we can, you know, either have Microsoft Teams, it's the new thing, call, or have a chat through everything as well. I hope it's been useful for everyone. I know I've given you 15 minutes back of your time. I was actually quite worried because I wasn't quite sure how long it'd take, but no, I hope if you have any questions or anything, please let us know. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.